do we have on your debit and credit? Your assets and your liabilities. And you can see here on the asset, it has foreign asset and it has domestic asset. The accounting jargon talk about net because it's all about net terms. So there are always movement in terms of the assets to and fro. So it's in terms of net terms. And within the domestic credit, you find that there are net claims on government, claims on commercial banks, claims on currency, the deposits of commercial banks with them, with the central bank, which are sometimes used again as a way of control, as controlling how much money will or will not go out of the system. So that's simple. Like I said, the idea here is not to analyze it just for its own sake, but because it has some importance in terms of how it can operate, how it can play with those assets and liabilities. So the next two slides give you this one on the asset side. So in case you wanted to know what is net foreign asset, you can pick whatever you want there. So our famous special drawing right comment again. You can see your foreign exchange, gold, reserves, etc. And the reason why it is net, so it gives you those net terms here. How do we come to net here? On the liability side, on the net foreign asset, you have the short-term liabilities to foreign central banks. Sometimes they do have some relationship. When I was some years ago, we went to the Bank of England. And they were talking about quite a number of, without going into the detail because this is confidential, to the extent that it is confidential, because the balance sheet sometimes you can find it. One central bank can have a relationship with another central bank. Okay? So, and it is quite often the case without too much of a problem. So that's what we're talking about. And short-term liabilities to come up to foreign central bank, including their deposits, swap facilities, overdrafts, and some medium and long-term foreign debt. So use of IMF credit by the country. You see the IMF credit always comes up because this is a very an important item in terms of whatever transactions you're dealing with the central bank. So at the end of the day, IMF, we always talk about IMF as policy makers, as policy directors. They give you policy. But they are also a bank at the end of the day because they do lend you money. But they also, in terms of those IMF credit and the SDR, special drawing rights, which I briefly mentioned to you yesterday. So that's where there are some deposits there in terms of what, depending on who you are and what your membership, etc. There are some links with the IMF there, which you can find, and that is easily accessible. You can check for Nigeria as well there.
I want to ask on the issue of the net foreign asset that bank holds in gold as reserve. I think that was last year or so. I don't remember if it was Argentina or Venezuela or some which now move its own gold back to their own central bank. So I don't, in that form, how is it? Does it still hold as a reserve within your own bank, or you treat it just the same way as a foreign as an asset out? If you need to use gold to protect your own reserve and you bring it back home, does it still hold that form that is still protected?
Nothing. I mean, at the end of the day, it's about active management. You have all the options available to you, and a lot of countries try to diversify in terms of what they're doing, and also according to the rule. The rule on foreign exchange is quite severe and rigid. They don't want you to speculate with that money. So you're going to see the government is not going to allow the central bank to get away with murder because they might go for the highest return. So suddenly they might just say, well, a bit like what anybody else can go and do. But central banks are not allowed to do that. You'll see they're very rigid. So within the remit of the statute in terms of the Central Bank of Nigeria Act, whatever they've been called, they can decide. And they have a committee. Normally, it's not in the central bank governor. There is a committee there called Reserves Committee, whereby there will be representative of government there, and they can decide. But what you're saying there, this is an active management. They might have decided at that particular point in time that they need to move some back, right? So nothing prevents them from doing that. So long as you have it available. So the whole concept of forex, we didn't do it that detailed yesterday when I was talking about foreign exchange, is it is there for a particular reason. And remember this morning when we were talking about this section 2 or 3 about foreign exchange reserve, the table, import cover. So it must be there available as quickly as possible to meet that requirement. So the manner in which you have those reserves also quite important. We need to have them in certain form that can be liquidized as well as quickly as possible. So gold, etc. So they are all right. And to some extent, like this IMF credit also is a buffer there. You would have, if you have been reading about the financial crisis of the world, you would find that a number of countries usually immediately when they are in trouble, when they need cash, they can go to the IMF also, and they get a special. So basically draw down from the IMF credit that they have there as well. But that's possible. There's no anything cost its toll. It's active management. It's about a portfolio. So foreign exchange portfolio, in the same way that you have your debt portfolio, any portfolio, right? Your sovereign wealth fund, same thing. You have it here, but you can invest it into so many things within the rule that govern that asset. So don't know that. How do they know how much is in circulation? And that's where they do this survey every time they know. It's not only about just printing the amount of money, but also thinking. Because they want to check, for example, there could be leakages. I'm not sure, for example, in Nigeria, but do you have any rule about taking money out of the country? Because, yeah, you do have, right? Because sometimes the central bank is concerned that obviously it's not legal tender in the sense that you take a naira outside this country. What are they do it for? Apart from keeping it for use the next time. Well, it doesn't happen with dollar. So you are such a small market. When we talk about exchange rate a little bit later, we will see. Our type of countries, we are a taker. We are a taker of what the market is saying. You can never say that you are influencing it. You normally react to it, right? So in their case, that is why the policy instruments are pretty limited because they can't do much. The inflation is obviously whatever is related to the price. So if you are buying those goods, and here it doesn't matter how are you buying the goods cost $20 or then it costs $50. Some of them will pass that on to you. So that's a direct thing. It's nothing to do with normally the exchange rate between this and that. Obviously there is a little bit of that between dollar and pound or whatever it is. But it's all about what is the cost of importing those goods, because you're paying it in dollars anyway, right? So there's, to some extent, you were mentioning about having one currency, and there was 10 years, 15 years ago, they were talking about one day having, instead of the dollar, maybe having one uniform currency around the world. That if that would have happened, then one big advantage you would have taken out, not big advantage, one big risk you would have taken out of the system that we have to manage on a daily basis ourselves now as people working on policy is about the exchange rate effects. Because the biggest risk a country that has loads of liability from outside is how do you ensure that your liability is not being worsening because of adverse movement of the exchange rates. E.g., the example of the devaluation, right? Between transactions between France, Germany, etc., there's no exchange rate change. So it has become, the European market has become the US market. US market, despite the fact that it is sometimes different zone, you know that if you move from one part of America to another part of America, time changes. But the currency is the same. So you're moving. There are some other change, etc. But financially, there's one market. So that's what the European want to, you know. But they're getting other problems, because the problem is not about currency, the problem is about movement of labor and monetary policy, fiscal policy, and all this type of thing. But when they when the central bank set up their interest rate, most of the time they are setting up their interest rate in relation to what the big brother or the big brothers want, not the small ones. And a very good example was in the 1990s, when Ireland was having super heated economy. The GDP was growing at a rate of 9.5, 10%, even to that level. So they were shouting, they were pleading with the ECB, European Central Bank, to do something about it. But normally when you're getting that type of thing, so you have to use a
I just want to, I know that you have said something, but I want to get
when you
at what point or what are the signals?
Well, I mean, like we are going to talk a little bit about monetary policy. Monetary policy and fiscal policy, these are tools available for you to be used at the right time, right? So I would answer without not necessarily knowing which circumstances you're talking, because monetary policy, it's a policy. It's an expansionary policy, or sometimes you just maintain the money supply where it was, because probably the money supply is just what it is. So you keep it constant, okay? So you play with it, you just keep it constant. So that would depend on where you are. If, for example, you're talking about implementing removing the money out of the system. So the first signal would be what is happening in the economy. The same thing, I'll go back to what we've been talking about from day one. So you look at the economy, using your model, you check what is happening to all the other variables. So the most immediate variable would be the inflation. I mean, that's the number one. When you look at the inflation, what is happening to inflation? So is inflation is getting out of control? Then suddenly when inflation is getting out of control, then you have to do something about it. You could say that it's affecting a number of other variables. So if you feel that really this money supply has to be controlled, then you implement it, right? And the central bank, in relation, they will inform, obviously, because in some other countries, I don't know whether in Nigeria now they've set up a committee. Usually you must have a committee. I think there is a committee, yes. There's a committee that look at monetary policy. Yes. And there are a number of individuals there. And nowadays, increasingly, they're bringing some like-minded, wise men or women type, you know, some economists or some economic policy makers from outside. They look at the fundamentals. So they look at a number of variables, not only one, a number of variables. Say, well, what are the signs that this economy is, and the word they're going to use is overheating. That's how you say it. What are the signs that, are we seeing signs that this economy is getting overheating? Then the beauty of monetary policy and the danger of monetary policy is that you don't react sometimes after the event. Many times the difficulty for them is they have to take action well before the problem of overheating comes in. Because by the time when the economy is already overheating, then the inflation has already shot up, etc. So sometimes they have to do the forward looking. That's the beauty, but also the danger, because sometimes you can't focus the future so well. So that's the answer, but it's not about
of a microeconomy to encourage them to build to bring more productivity to the country, improving productivity.
Of course. I mean everything we've been speaking about now. Remember, every time I start my presentation, I start with some objective. Why do you think I always talk about objective? Because fiscal policy, monetary policy, exchange rate policy, income policy, wages policy, employment policy, in a vacuum, they don't mean anything. They're pretty meaningless if you don't know why you're using it, right? So what you're saying that if you're doing it in order to support some sectoral whatever it is, one has to look at really how this is happening. Sometimes it's true. If you want to boost up I'm trying to find out an example in Nigeria where which sector you want to boost up. Let's say. Agri. Oh, okay, let's use agriculture. Let's say, for example, they've discovered that there's still potential there. Maybe the agro business, not the agriculture, basic agriculture, but the agro, because the value added is. So they might give you. They may take some indirect instruments rather than take macro instruments, because once you do the monetary policy for everybody, you might be supporting one sector, but some other sector may be affected depending on what you're doing. So on this case, what they might do when we come to sectoral policy, you might see that they might dedicate more credit, cheaper credit available through special window through the Agricultural Development Bank or through even the central bank. I think there's something here I'm going to say. They can have a special treatment time to give that. So this is what I would call micro policy, right? But sometimes the danger of using the full whole policy to affect one sector at the expense of the rest of the other sectors, we can become a bit like Ireland versus France. So France is benefiting, then Ireland is suffering. So here, agriculture is benefiting because, but then some other sectors may not be benefiting. But so one has to always know what is your objective. Why are you doing that? Are you removing any imbalance in the economy or not? Are you trying to give a boost to the economy? Yes or no? Why is government spending so much? And why is it spending so much in this particular area? And your your challenge in Nigeria is more about, because it's state. It's a state. Sometimes you need to give a boost to specific state. Then how do you actually do that? You know what I mean? So policy, monetary policy, fiscal policy becomes a bit more difficult sometimes, because you have to give the policy and how the transmission to the various states have to be looked at. You know? And maybe the transmission doesn't work out similarly, because the states are at different level of their development and needs. And that is why sectoral policies also needs to be looked at, like I just explained, through giving them dedicated support. All right? Their balance sheet, the asset and liability should be consolidated into one monetary survey, which is then published by the central bank. Okay? The key purpose of monetary survey is here, get basic data about monetary and credit development. How the money supply is functioning, moving, how credit is being created, how many loans, how quickly loans are being created, or how less credit is being created. This is also a danger. If there's not enough credit being created, this means that there's a problem there could be a problem in the system. Because remember, I tell you that business needs credit. So if, for example, the commercial bank have decided to stop lending, then the central bank would like to know why. The government would like to know why. This means that business are not getting money from the commercial banks. Business can get money from the commercial bank. They can get money from the market as well. You know, later we're going to see from the financial market. In the same way that government raise a bond, they can raise bond, but not everybody can raise bond. You have to have a requirement. There are rules. The Securities Exchange rule, you need to be compliant with those rules. Not everybody can say, oh, I'm going to open it and create a bond. But you can go individually, small companies, small enterprise, you can go to your bank or you can go to a financial intermediary. You can make your case. Obviously you need a business case, a strong business case. I need capital in order to expand my business where I want to export more to the Far East, or I want to export more to whatever. They look at your model, find that you're sustainable, they get you some collateral from you, and they give you the credit. Or if it is export credit, they look at what you are doing, and then in exchange, like a letter of credit placed. So, and then whenever the exporters, the letter of credit is an open-ended sort of a window, and then through that money, because supplies, goods come in, you pay, all this type of things. So that's credit. Okay, so you are able to know that in a timely fashion. So not late or whatever it is, in a timely fashion. Enables the policymakers to monitor development and adjust monetary policy necessarily. That's the reason. So don't think that government sit down or the central bank sit down there and count how much money is in circulation. No. It uses the monetary survey. to determine really the nature of the credit and money in circulation, and then money supply, then whether to apply monetary policy instruments accordingly. In analyzing macroeconomic developments, looking at trends shown by the monetary survey is therefore important. So I go back to what I'm telling you. If you're doing macroeconomic analysis, please don't ignore the monetary sector, because one, it is not your cup of tea, or two, because it is a central bank and they know what they're doing. Yes, they know what they're doing, but you should also know what they're doing. Okay? Constructing the monetary survey, these are the two simple ones. At the higher level, I'm telling you. There is more to that than what I'm saying. You take the balance sheet of the central bank, you take the consolidated balance sheet of the commercial bank, combine them, and get the consolidated monetary survey, and start analyzing it. Okay. So the monetary survey, nothing different, because even if you're taking a balance sheet, you're adding it to another balance sheet, what do you get? And these are, I don't want you to memorize it. The good news is that you're not having a case study, so I'm not going to ask you to, I'm not going to ask you to calculate gross money. I'm not going to ask you to calculate M2 or M1 or CY or DD. But at least I'll give you just an idea about what is money. There are what we call broad money, narrow money. You might have heard that, right? So this is broad money. What is broad money? It includes all liabilities of the banking system. And it's defined as broad money is equal to narrow money, but gross money. Here we go. Don't worry in case I'm confusing you. Right? And it says here it's M2 is equal to M1 plus QM, and M1 is what? It's narrow money. Currency in circulation, that is that money that you are having now when we're exchanging, that is what currency in circulation, plus demand deposits in the banking system. These are those deposits which can easily be. Let me come back to what I think, because I need to finish. These are the different types of money. So those money most of those money are near liquid. So the central bank needs to know every type of money in the possession. So not only coins and notes. It's only those demand deposits, those deposits, because they are near to cash. Because once you have an account there, you can use it. You know, there's no limit. You can use it. What is the limit in Nigeria? They might say that your account should have a minimum. Some don't know. You can't make your account zero. You can't make your account zero. It has to be minimum 100 or 500 or something like that.
It varies from bank to
There are banks that are zero.
Yeah. Credit accounts. Foreign and the rest. So means the rest is available for you. And then we are going to answer the question. If the government is increasing expenditure, what is the impact of the government increasing expenditure on the macro? Perfectly valid question. But then the argument would be that instead of answering the question, I would say it depends. Depends means it depends on what is happening there. It depends whether there is full employment in the economy. It depends whether there is sufficient right capacity in the economy. So I would say it depends on whether, on what the government is using to finance its deficit. Because any increase in expenditure which is not funded by tax means must be funded by something else that we've heard already 100 times now. So then you will see the argument in this slide. I'm summarizing here. We're going to argue that it all depends on whether the government has decided to borrow internationally, or the government has decided to borrow domestically to fund the deficit. And then we're going to argue if the government is going to borrow either through bank or through non-bank. So all these have some implication in terms of how fiscal policy works. So it's the same story about fiscal policy, tax, expenditure, transfer payments, etc. We're going to do that. Similarly, for monetary policy, we're going to look at how monetary policy will work in different scenarios and what are the instruments that we'll be using. So we'll be spending a bit more time. We've just spoken, every time we've spoken is that monetary policy. But now we'll define it a bit more formally, and then we're going to look at those instruments and then look at what the central I don't know whether I have it there, but I have a document which will list out the instrument that the CBN is using as we speak in terms of monetary policy. Right? Some of them are more or less the same that most other banks are using. Interest, reserves, OMO, etc. And then we're going to talk a little bit about exchange rate and talk about here, focus a bit more on this fixed and floating exchange rate. So we can open that discussion that we already had some time ago about the implication of temporarily controlling your exchange rate and what that leads to, and then floating exchange rate. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. And as usual, I left it there. I always start with objective. But I wanted to get this habit of saying, why? Why are we using that instrument? So I'm not going to talk about it, but you will see every slide that I'm talking about policy, I'm talking about what is it? What is my objective? Always there. And then obviously I come to the central bread and butter, my budget. Again, same slide, which you've seen a few times already, right? And you've also seen that how fiscal policy is linked to those objectives, okay? Promote economic growth, achieve internal equilibrium, achieve. Now I hope you understand what is internal equilibrium and external equilibrium, right? So I think we'll focus quite a bit about it. Obviously, these objectives are achieved through the fiscal policy, the monetary policy, the exchange rate policy, which we are going to look at. And fiscal policy in a nutshell, you've seen that before, but I'm just giving you it's all about how to use the government two or three tools it has. Spending or using some taxation as well. I have added these objectives here of poverty reduction, objectives and environment. You know, increasingly this is becoming very explicit. I suspect in Nigeria also, no? The environment is very much now part of the government remit. Sometimes government change and they forget about it. Like in the UK now, the current government has forgotten about its environmental policy. So it's removed a lot of concessions to what do you call that? Solar panel, you know, solar panel to generate electricity. Thrown out of the window. The reason why? There's not money. Fiscal austerity. So they've said fiscal austerity means cut down on expenditure. Which expenditure? Unfortunately, environment. Whether it's good or bad, we can debate that when we do sectoral environment policy. I think that's not a good idea. But so these are policies. See, obviously poverty reduction is always there. Okay, we want to grow for that. So these are policies. No problem with that. Okay, can I move? This one also I've done, so let's go back. I just wanted to highlight to you that in terms of crisis, you can use fiscal policy too. And this is a word we're using here. In case sometime you hear fiscal stimulus, the central bank, the government can use fiscal stimulus. IMF, the World Bank will come to me and say, well, can you use fiscal stimulus? What does stimulus mean? The word itself tells you already. Stimulus, it's an incentive, it's a spur. It's a spur, right? It's a bit like in your car when it's not starting, you just jump start it. So you're giving a push as it to the economy. And in the economy, in fiscal policy, the way expenditure and tax works, there are a number of internal, the system, there are a number of spurs, of triggers, that's the best word. There are a number of triggers which can be used by the government to make things happen. And I'm going to talk briefly, if I forget to remind you, the concept of automatic stabilizers. There are things there which within the government, within the budget, takes care. When there is a budget deficit or when there is a recession or when there is a overheating of the economy, there are automatic stabilizers. Just remind me of that. So So we haven't spoken about all those things, so this stuff is there. Sometimes in a lot of analysis, we don't take those into account. You have to look at your own economy to find out whether those so-called automatic stabilizers can work. And those automatic stabilizers are mostly related to the transfers we're talking about. Government giving benefits, government giving special schemes. How can you use that? Government can use it automatically if I create something. So you can see the economy can balance itself. Right? Sometimes the deficit is too big for it to balance. So you have to estimate how much the automatic stabilizer is working, then how much stimulus to give. Are you getting the point now? So you don't start stimulating for the whole sector. You stimulate it, but you know that the automatic stabilizer also is working. We'll come to that later. So, and this is, I wanted to start with this. This is not me, that is you, right? In continuation, if you can spend some time, you must recognize that. That's yours, right? Your fiscal strategy. So fiscal policy, you need to have a sort of a plan. You need to know, that is why I'm saying, you need to know what was the situation. You need to always evaluate, how am I doing? What is the context? How many times when you do analysis, what is the first section of any analytical report? I know you put background, which I hate so much, but mostly it's about context, right? Where is the context? What are we trying to explain here? What is the situation? And the context will tell you, basically, what is it that Nigeria is going through. Obviously, you could have a section to say how we have done it, but that's down the line. But it's more about the context. How am I developing my policy, my instrument? So is it within what type of strategy? And that strategy is trying to do what? Going back again to your objective. Do you get that? So that's the essence of analysis. Analysis is never done in a vacuum. Not because somebody has asked you, because you've seen some statistics coming out, but you need to know why you're analyzing it. If you're analyzing it just because you're curious, that's okay. I don't mind that. But sometimes you're analyzing it because you're trying to find something. So this is why in the case of Nigeria, so what he's saying, in continuation of government's effort to transform the economy. So the big word here is what? Transform. So you're already saying that, okay, some people might say, well, they always say that, but I'm not getting into that cynical argument here, but I believe what it's saying here. So effort to transform the economy. So there is a need to transform the economy, and the word is in continuation. Sometimes we don't say continuation, we say as part of the government ongoing effort. I mean, right? It means the same thing. Continuation of ongoing efforts is the same thing. So we have a plan. We, for a number of years, or for a number of, 18 months, 2 years, or 5 years, depending on what is the period, you have been trying to transform the economy. The nation's fiscal strategy continues to be, again it says continues. What continues means? This strategy is a continuation of an ongoing policy. So we tried to do that in the past. The other question obviously, but have you succeeded, or it has been not easy to do, would be the immediate question from an analytical point of view. Okay? The fiscal strategy continues to be predicated on 4 main pillars, and these are macroeconomic stability. So here you see that my very first or second or third slide of Monday was talking about when I was defining the building blocks of macroeconomic policy, or policy. I talk about macroeconomic stability. Now you see, the Nigerian economy has also taken that, and that's pretty plausible, really viable. You need macroeconomic stability. Now I hope you know what it is. If you go back to your slide, you will see what I have defined on one side, what is macroeconomic instability, the features of macroeconomic instability, in order to differentiate it with the macroeconomic features of stability. So you would know now, so you can see every word that you can use in a document, and this is your own document, can have powerful, heavy meaning. You can take that macroeconomic stability, you can write 2 paragraphs on it. It's just this macroeconomic stability. But here, because it's your own analysis, you would know. So the person who's written that, or the team that has written that, would know that you know, right? What we mean here by the need for macroeconomic stability. Of course, another thing now, structural reform. Do you remember when I was talking about policies? Expenditure reducing policies, expenditure switching policies. Still remember that? And then the third one was structural policies, structural changes, structural. So there's a need in Nigeria to do structural reform. Obviously, governance and institutions, that is always required because you're improving the quality of the institution. You're reforming. Governance means you're putting in place some form of transparency, accountability within the decision-making process, but also within the implementation. It's not the old days where, because your technically government is civil servant, you hide behind committees. There's nobody knows who's done that. It's a bit like somebody is. I walk past through, I touch you, and then I disappear. I say, who's that? Then you look back, you see 5 people. You don't know who's touched you. So you can hide behind government. Government has many people. But governance is about accountability. Going back to what I told you about the president, the ex-president of Brazil, she's in trouble. She's already in trouble. She's gone. They have already nominated the new president, who's incidentally has already flown this morning or is flying today to. Remember the G20 meeting? He's already gone to the G20. Okay, governance institution investing in priority sectors. That's our investing in priority sectors, which is the meaning of sectors, sectoral policy, investing, putting the money, putting the resources, building the capacity. That's what investing means. Okay. On our fiscal strategy, the last 2 years has included efforts to correct the imbalance. Again, the word imbalance, that's an internal imbalance between recurrent and capital spending, which in 2011 has been at 74/26 capital. We were able to reduce the share of recurrent spending to about 60. If you understand that, what the government is trying to do. The government is trying to tell you that I would like to use my budget for more productive uses. It's not saying recurrent is not productive, but recurrent, you need a lot of those investment, expenditure items. The reason why I'm saying that, never believe that capital is always important than recurrent. The only problem with recurrent is that recurrent also includes a number of items which may not be spent too big. And the obvious item, like I mentioned, the Zimbabwe example was if your wages and salaries is taking too much. On the other hand, or sometimes if subsidies has become a bit obsolete, but it's useful, maybe useful for the poor. But where it is useful is, let me link something to capital. In many countries, governments are very excited about capital expenditure. But they're very shy about one item in the recurrent expenditure, which is what? No, salary is maintenance. And for me, this is the most frustrating element. This is the poor one, always forgotten. You build a road, there's no money to maintain the road. So what happened? 5 years, the capital investment is gone, it's disappeared. So for analysis, I hope the way I'm talking, so this triggers some analysis at your level as well. I hope you do it like that. Because it would be disappointing if in Nigeria also the effort at putting money.
So sometimes what they do with Nigerian kids, especially roads, is through reclassification. They don't put it as maintenance. They hide under the manhole rehabilitation.
Oh, but it's still
as a capital item.
Oh, it comes under capital. Yes. Deliberately in order to avoid that problem. Okay, that's better still. That's better. But does that apply for only road or generally?
Mostly roads.
But I would ask you that maintenance generally.
Initially, you will find a lot of money going down during maintenance when government was maintaining houses. Before, government sold up, houses to civil servants. That's where you have maintenance of buildings, maintenance, and lots of money. Lots of money.
Okay. So it was going to the extreme, the other side. I'm talking here more about the real infrastructure. So roads, but more than that. So I think that's very important because there's a cost to that. Can you imagine a PPP project, how expensive it can become? We talk about millions. And then suddenly there is an amount of money that not made available. Could be very little, just to keep maintaining. And suddenly the quality of service gets improved. But obviously I hear what you're saying. There has been abuse in terms of maintenance because now you're maintaining even buildings and other things which probably, well, maybe need to be maintained, but it's an abuse. Yeah, so I've both taken. But so you can see here what the government is doing, reducing the share of recurrent and increasing the share of capital, which is viable. So redistribution of the manner in which expenditure is taking place. However, because of the new challenge allocation by the projected significant reduction of revenue, there will be temporary that's slippages. Slippages always happen. Obviously, the argument here would be for how long that slippage will go on. That's what we need to look at. Then increase on and non-earned revenue begin to yield benefits. Government will redevelop to reduce the fiscal deficit. So that's another objective. So these are objectives. You see, there is a commitment by the government to actually reduce the fiscal deficit. This will create long-term economic gain because it will increase the pool of national savings and boost investment, thereby creating jobs and raising economic growth. So the government itself is admitting that its fiscal deficit has to go down, despite the fact that it's investing into capital projects. It wants to increase the savings, and in savings go directly to investment, not only to its own investment, but maybe private investment. Right? So